conversions. It also argues that the bill brings greater transparency, creates a clear legal framework for managing foreign-funded assets, and aligns India with global practices followed by countries such as the United States and the United Kingdom. But the opposition, several NGOs and civil society groups strongly disagree. They argue that the amendments have excessive powers and they give excessive authority to the central government, tighten control over foreign-funded organizations, and impose compliance requirements that could particularly affect smaller charities. Critics also fear that the welfare services could be disrupted. If the NGO licenses are cancelled, that civic space may shrink and that constitutional freedoms could come under pressure. Many have demanded that the bill be referred to a select committee for wider consultation before Parliament takes a final call. So this legislation, is it necessary to safeguard and protect India's sovereignty and ensure accountability in the use of foreign funds? Or does it risk expanding executive power at the cost of the civil society and voluntary organization? On this issue, I spoke to former chairman of the Indian Council of Cultural Relations, Vinay Sahasrabuddhe. FCRA has become a big issue in India. FCRA is being opposed by opposition parties on ground that they argue that it is going to make it very, very difficult for NGOs to function properly, who have been doing a stellar job in the field of education, in the field of medicine, or in the field of voluntary sector where poor people are being helped out. But there is another opinion that foreign funding needs to be regulated because foreign funding can also influence public behavior in the country. Foreign fundings through NGOs in many other countries have also been used for regime change. But the larger question is, what sort of law is required to regulate foreign funding? In Europe, the funding regulation is decentralized. The new law that is being proposed is far more centralized. On this issue, I'm joined by Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, who is the writer-president, the Asiatic Society of Mumbai, and the NAC member of Bharatiya Janata Party. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. Sir, you have been arguing that the law in itself, the FCRA amendments, are both faith neutral and sector neutral. They make no distinction between religious and secular organization or among different faiths. While some groups have opposed the changes, most voluntary organizations, including hospitals, service bodies, have not objected to it. Is it going to strengthen Indian democracy, sir? Or is it going to weaken Indian democracy, sir?
No, absolutely. It is going to strengthen Indian democracy. See, like foreign nationals, we should be very watchful about foreign funding also. And therefore, if foreign nationals have to kind of operate in a particular legal framework, likewise, those who are seeking foreign funds or those who are giving foreign funds will have to abide by a set of rules and regulations. They were unnecessarily ultra-liberal, I would say, because many provisions which now the Act is proposing were relevant even 20 years before. But somehow that was not paid any attention to, and this was a huge backlog. And therefore, this kind of globalization of philanthropy requires to be relooked. And that is the need of the hour, which the government is satisfying by bringing this particular legislation, which has not been opposed by all, generally speaking, I would say, genuine organizations who are into welfare activities.
Mr. Sahasrabuddhe, a lot of articles have been written about it. Opposition argues that this is about control, not transparency. And they argue that the bill must be sent to the select committee for clause by clause examination.
Well, that is a matter for the parliamentarians to decide. And if the parliament so decides that to send it to the select committee, doesn't matter. But then that is a decision which the government and the opposition together, generally speaking, take. And I'm sure they will take a nuanced approach towards that. But the point remains that the legislation is very, very relevant and it is going to benefit the voluntary sector, the development sector in a significant manner.
Sir, you made a very distinct point, and I will quote you. You wrote, sir, over time, genuine voluntarism has given way to professionalized activism. How do you make a difference between this in a democracy where, voluntary activism can sometimes merge with professional activism. How do you distinguish that? Alag kaise kar denge?
Yeah. No, it's a very important and key question, and I'm happy you asked this. See, wherever voluntarism takes a different scale and also expands in a particular way, which is welcome. But then when it becomes professional, we have to ensure that the voluntary spirit is not killed. Today, many voluntary organizations employ more of their strength, manpower especially, in preparing reports, preparing proposals, getting them sanctioned. I mean, we are not kind of proposal factory. Are the NGOs, the voluntary organizations? See, I mean, NGO is a term which was introduced somewhere in the mid-70s. Because earlier, I am a student of democracy, so I can definitely say it on the basis of whatever research I was able to do. See, after the Second World War, the researchers in democracy describe it as the third wave of democracy, and many countries who got independence post Second World War, they adopted for democratic governance. And it was considered that when people themselves elect their rulers and the representatives of the people themselves are in governance, naturally things will fall in line, everything will be hunky-dory and welfare will be something very easy. It didn't happen. And therefore, apart from voluntary organization, a new animal came into existence, which is called as non-government organization. And today, if we look back 50 years history of prominent activism of the NGOs, both national and international also, and I have mentioned it in my article also, that they themselves are trying to become a government. They are non-government and they are adopting everything that the government is doing, which kills the spirit of voluntarism. And therefore, we need to see India, our civilizational approach has always been towards autonomous society. And if the autonomy of the society is to be protected at any cost, I think we should be definitely having many such legislations which will promote and protect voluntarism, which is getting killed in one way or the other. And that is a red flag which I thought I must mention.
Okay. Now, I'll quote a report. US Congressman Riley Moore said that the proposed changes to the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act amounted to a clear attack against Christians and urged India not to proceed with the legislation in its current form. In a post next, the Republican congressman from West Virginia said Christianity had a long history in India dating back to the arrival of St. Thomas the Apostle on the Malabar coast. But despite this long Christian history, India's parliament is considering amending FCRA to permit government takeovers of churches and religious charities. Do you think that this is the real issue? For the West, it's all boiling down to their churches.
Yeah, I don't know why are they so very apprehensive and voicing their concerns in such a loud manner. But in India, everybody knows if there are some issues about the mismanagement of an educational institution or even a temple, the government has the authority to take over the administration of a temple, which is generally governed by a trust. Charity Commissioner has all the powers to do that. Likewise, educational institutions. So are the churches, for that matter, anything different from temples? Just in case there is any mismanagement, why should one be worried about that the government is trying to take it over? There are hardly any examples of government having taken over any church for its day-to-day conduct of.
But Mr. Saraswati, conversions are a reality. 150
yes,
years
of course.
ago, there was no Christianity in Northeast.
That is why I am saying that
200 years ago,
unnecessarily people are raising a hue and cry about this. But what about conversion? And therefore, the legislation clearly states that you have to tell us about the source of funding, tell us about what kind of objective was there behind giving such a huge grant by the fund givers, and also tell us how exactly have you used it. You bring it for education and use it for conversion. You bring it for philanthropy and use it for religious, change of belief system. This is certainly not allowed. Which country will allow this? Today, for example, forget religious, belief systems and other things. Today, if somebody tries to convert people from one political ideology to different political ideology, is it not allowing them to play with our democracy? And can we and should we allow this? So transparency is something which is required, and that is the same thing the government is trying to ensure. Why people should be worried, and those who are doing legitimate social work, protecting voluntarism, are not against this. Let me also bring this to your notice.
Okay. You also write that the amendments will ensure that foreign money does not shape domestic, political, social, or ideological outcomes in a way that compromises national security and sovereignty, sir. It's a very loaded line you have written in your article. Do you think that India faces the danger from foreign powers to shape our domestic, political, and ideological outcomes, which are electoral? And also, why do you say that?
Even in the Congress regime, when there were researches and some kind of inquiries conducted, let's say the Neogi Commission report, which was sometime in the mid-60s, I guess, that they also have come out with similar observations. It's a government document. BJP was not there around at that point of time. Or say, take the examples of Northeast India. The kind of destabilizations that were there earlier, now, of course, things have changed. But yes, thanks to the foreign powers meddling with it, they are sending money, they are sending weapons, they are sending several things. And therefore, we have to be watchful. As a sovereign country, it is our duty to be watchful.
But sir, there is one argument, which is that, yes, ideological, educational conversion, these are the red flags. But then a lot of money from the foreign donors also go to hospitals. These civic charitable institutions where actually poor people are taken care of. Understanding that there is nothing black and white in this life, it's all gray. How do we take care of that part where actually the needy people really get helped by these donations?
See, after all, there is a mechanism even now, and the proposed act also doesn't do away with this mechanism. If, say, for example, in a particular area, the particular police station or the commissioner, they get to know that in the name of charity, some kind of conversion is happening, some kind of political activism is taking shape, then are they not supposed to kind of meddle into that, stop that? People are legitimately, they have the authority, they have the right to go to the court, knock the doors of the court and seek justice. That is very legitimate. And therefore, while one should not be painting everything with the same brush, that everything is kind of anti-national and everything is with some conversion, aimed at some religious conversion, that generalization is totally unacceptable. But the other generalization, that everybody is coming with a pure philanthropic approach in its mind and serving for humanity, is also not true. And therefore, I have cited researchers in Latin America, in Africa, in several other countries. Even in India, there is a very authentic research which suggests that foreign funding has not contributed to poverty alleviation in India in several years.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sahasrabudhe, for joining me in this riveting conversation. Because I don't think FCRA controversy is going to settle down so easily. I think we are going to see a lot of heated debate. I don't know whether it's going to go to the select committee or not. But yes, one thing I completely agree with your article is that no foreign country cannot be allowed to determine the ideological, political, and social outcomes of this country. It should be independent. It should be completely independent. And no dissent on the other hand should be categorized as
Correct.
Against the interest of the country.
Correct.
There
Absolutely.
should be a healthy balance. So thank you so much for making
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So this was on point 2, but now it's time for on point 3. And the on point 3 is about the sort of crass, the sort of high-pitched reaction that came from Dhaka on Sheikh Hasina's press conference. I'm going to decode it with Ambassador Veena Sikri. Tension between India and Bangladesh have escalated after Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina addressed a press conference in Delhi. The sort of reaction that came was very crude.